Alrighty, everybody, it is currently Tuesday, May 6th, something like that, however you pronounce it, dude. How many years of experience do I have on Earth, and I still don't know if it's 6th or 6ths? Either way, you're not going to pronounce it right, especially if it's like conversationally, just be like, yeah, the 6th is just, and then just move on to the next word as quickly as you can. But it is May 6th, 2025, and it is a Tuesday, and it is also finals week. That's another thing about this week. It's finals week for a lot of people. A lot of people, especially in college. I feel like I don't know any high schoolers, although I wish I did. They're pretty hot, but I don't know any. But I think their finals week, the school year usually runs a little longer. So I think their finals week is probably coming up in a couple weeks. And there's also no one listening to this, so it doesn't. It's not. I'm not talking to college students or high schoolers. I'm talking to an agent that works in the CIA who's looking for a young man he can manipulate into killing someone. I don't know who he wants me to kill. Maybe joining the military, just straight up doing that. I don't know, but he's the only person that listens to this. So what's up, Hefe? His name is Hefe, by the way. I know it. I know it for a fact, dude. One time when he was hacking my computer, a little mariachi music played, and I identified that from a mile away. I said I know who's behind there. I didn't even know they hired them to do that. I guess they do. That's probably why Elon Musk wanted like the H-1B visas so bad so they could get the Indians to do it. But I think that's one thing we'll never outsource to India is is spying on the American people. You know, like that's something you need like a someone who speaks a little bit of English to do. Not a ton of English. You don't really need to know a ton of English. It's more about like the tones of it, right? Like how someone if it's angry enough, then you can be like, all right, let's get that guy. That guy could be really easy to lull into doing whatever we want him to do. That guy would be very easy to trick into driving a car into a concert. I think we got that guy, the way he's just ranting and raving. But you do got to know a little bit of English. But apparently you don't need to know a little bit of English to go to college in America, because that's what I wanted to start off this episode talking about. You know, it being finals week, a lot of people are like, oh, how's finals week going for you? Is it going good? Is it going bad? Do you think you're going to pass your classes? And I don't really care. And I'll tell you why, specifically at this school that I'm at right now. Whatever you're doing, right, whatever your degree you're getting, it doesn't really matter. There's people I know that are getting degrees in biology or fucking, math, like real degrees, not like not like some bullshit like gender studies or whatever, not fucking the art of boomboxes and gender, whatever the fuck that means, but like actual degrees. And there's a thing that they can do. And I don't know if this is at all schools. It's probably at all liberal arts schools, probably at all schools in the fucking worst state in the union, Minnesota. Minnesota's worse than fucking it's worse than Alabama ever was. All right, it's worse than Georgia ever was. I really wish the South won the Civil War just so Minnesota wouldn't be as gay and as awful in general as it is. But particularly at this school in the awful state of Minnesota. I almost said the great state. It almost slipped out of me, but my brain, I was like making the shape of my tongue to say the word great, and my brain was like, nope, those two things do not go together. But in this school that I go to, there's people, and they can for the test, like for I think any test, probably including the final, but definitely for every test in the class, can get either double the time or just take it wherever they want, basically. Like they have a special room in the library where they're like, oh, this is where you take the tests at. Okay, if you can't take it in a classroom, then you take it here. But the thing about the room that they take the test in, right? The reason they can't take it in the classroom, I guess, is because there's other people in there, like there is in every place on Earth. But I guess they can't take it in the classroom because there's other people there. And so obviously there's no people in that room, and they're like, oh, well, it's monitored. It's monitored with a camera. Yeah, by who? The professor's fucking taking it, like, sorry, I got to cancel class today so I can go watch a retard take a multiple choice test about fucking anthropology or whatever. No, that's not happening, right? Like, it's just not. There's no one monitoring it. So they can completely cheat on the test, and they do it on a different day. So the degree means nothing, right? Ultimately, it means nothing. And I think, that's the real death of intellectualism. Like a lot of people are talking about how the death of intellectualism is happening because people aren't going to college. I would argue it's happening because people are going to college, and they're getting so, what's the word? Extremized. There's radicalized. That's the word I'm looking for. They're getting so radicalized that they don't really understand what intellectualism is, right? Like college and the professors and, the students, all of it's just this big incestuous fucking gangbang, and it produces an incestuous fucking Whitaker. That's and if you don't know the Whitakers are a pretty famous inbred family from the great state, an actual great state, the great state of West Virginia. And there's one of them. I got to talk about the Whitakers for a minute. There's one of them. His name is Ray, dude, and he can't talk. He can only bark, but he always has a dip in. And his eyes, he has like chameleon eyes, like they're bugged out of his head. And they're not dead, right? It's not like a wonky eye or like a lazy eye where it's just always looking in one direction. They can like move independently of each other. This guy's like the result of like 7 generations of inbreeding, and they created like a shitty Marvel superhero, just like Chameleon Man. But he can't talk, he can only bark, and he's always got a dip in. But that's what college in America has become. It's just they've produced Ray Whitaker by being like this closed off little bubble, and the right's kind of doing that too in a way. And college is obviously it's left, right? Like that's why they're like, oh well, you can take it in class, because if it was the fucking right, dude, it would be you could only get 1 degree if it was the fucking right controlling the colleges, right? And that degree would be like abortion protesting. That would be the only degree. It would be like a 1984 fucking college or whatever. Just 1 degree. Everyone gets the exact same thing. All you're going to do is learn how to protest abortions. And like with the left, trying to like convert everyone that goes through their colleges to being left-leaning, which you don't need to do, really. That's the thing, is that I don't think these people realize that are like, we need to teach these kids how to be left-leaning. If you're in college, you kind of... you automatically are, right? Not right now, obviously, because all like the professors and all the most annoying fucking people in the world in the college are left-leaning. But like in the 60s and 70s and basically every time before now, anyone who went to like a public university or anything like that became left-leaning, right? Just because of the nature of college, right? You don't need to preach to a fucking classroom, to make them left-leaning, if that makes sense, right? And in a way, you're making them more right-leaning by doing that, because you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, can you shut the fuck up? I'm trying to go home, jerk off, and take a nap, and you're sitting here lecturing me about how every fucking culture is valid or whatever. I would have came to that own retarded conclusion on my own, but now since you're being so fucking annoying about it, I'm never going to come to that conclusion, and I'm going to come to the opposite conclusion. And I don't think I don't think the people... the professors, the people who run these colleges have realized that yet, right? That like by being so annoying about it and shoving it down everyone's throat, you're actually doing the opposite of what you want to do. You got to be subtle about it. But in their defense, I think they think everyone is so retarded that they can't be subtle about it. They have to be incredibly forthright, like the most forthright, dude. They have to be fifth right about it. They have to be so upfront about this thing because they assume everyone's retarded because half the people in the class can't take a test in the classroom, right? Like the whole point of the class is to be able to you take the knowledge and you do a little bit of homework here and there to like prove what you know a little bit, right? And to work on what you know and kind of refine it. But the test is the goal, right? The test is the thing you need to do to prove that you know, to prove that you learned in the class. But if you don't have to take the test, right? If you basically could take the test however you want to take the test, then you don't really prove anything. So the class becomes basically null and void. And that's just one man's opinion on it. That's what I think about it. And the thing about that, right, is a lot of people, their defense for it is like, well, if we don't let these people take these tests, these people that can't take tests in the classroom, if they can't get into college and like pass their classes, maybe they're really smart, but they're just not great test takers, or like the taking a test in a classroom stresses them out. And my response to that is, if you can't handle the stress of taking a test in a fucking classroom, right, you're not going to be able to handle the stress of having like a high-level engineering job or whatever. Because in order to do that, you're going to need to work with other people. You can't just do it completely on your fucking own, right? Like no one has ever really discovered anything completely on their own like that. Like Isaac Newton has. And that guy was, I don't even know if he was autistic. That guy was just a genetic freak, dude. That guy was like the fucking Larry Allen of dweebs. And so that's also not an argument, right? It's like if I was like, I want to join the Navy SEALs, but I don't want anyone yelling at me, and I can't hold my breath for more than 30 seconds. But like, I could be a really good Navy SEAL, and it's like, well, no, you need to you need to be able to take orders from people and hold your breath for more than 30 seconds to be able to become a Navy SEAL. But obviously that would never happen to me because I already am a Navy SEAL, and I served with Joe Rogan and Tim Kennedy in Afghanistan. And we killed 80 Taliban members with a can opener. Dude, I've discovered this recently. Fucking like people on YouTube and just social media in general that are like, I'm an ex-operator. I was in the Navy SEALs. I was in the Green Beret. I was in the Army Rangers. It's the dumbest thing ever. It's the stupidest fucking thing on earth, right? Like those things, those people, those, operators, and really just the military in general, it's about taking orders, right? You're just really good at taking orders. You're the opposite of a free thinker if you get into the Navy SEALs. Because the whole point of the Navy SEALs is to just take all this fucking abuse, or like the training at least, is you just take like endless fucking abuse from these instructors, these drill sergeants, whoever the fuck. They just abuse the shit out of you. And then you become a Navy SEAL because they're like, all right, this guy can take all this abuse. He can, perform these orders under a great amount of stress, right? So you're just the best at taking orders in the entire world. That's all being, a member of the special forces is. And they're like, I started a tactical kettlebell company. And it's like, yeah, that sounds like something someone who can only take orders would do. That sounds like the kind of genius idea a guy who's really good at knowing which people to kill and which people not to kill would do. And they're not even good at that, really. Like, every time you hear about, like, a special forces operation, they're always like, and 18 civilians ended up dead. 18 civilians ended up in the crossfire. They're not even good at their job. And they're coming on here. I don't even know what the fuck they talk about. Goggins is the only one that I respect, because at least Goggins he's inhabiting and like putting that ethos out into the world, right? Like that ethos of just don't give a shit about like what you feel like and just do the thing. Like that's Goggins' whole thing. It's like, it doesn't matter what you feel like. There's a thing that you're supposed to do, and you need to do it regardless of whether you feel like it, regardless of whether you think it's right or wrong in the moment. You just do that thing. And so I can respect that, right? Like his whole thing is literally just, it is the Navy SEALs ethos, in a nutshell, basically. Is just fuck off, who cares what you feel like, do the thing that you're supposed to do. And so I can respect him, but all these other guys are like, yeah, I'm a badass operator. I killed 30 people with a rusty spoon in Fallujah. It's like all right, dude. Yeah, That's the opposite of what you're supposed to do to be able to be a person that can function normally in society. It's like literally the antithesis. The one thing in society that you're not supposed to do is kill people, right? It's literally the first commandment. It's like the thing that every society everywhere on earth has agreed on. Do not kill people. And that's the one thing you do. I'm not taking advice from you. Your entire thing is doing the only thing that everyone, literally everyone, no one on earth, there's no other ideal like that on earth. Like, it's like eating food and drinking water are the only other things. Not even shelter. People don't even agree on shelter. Like, there's tribes and shit out there that are just groups of people that just sleep on the fucking forest floor, right? Like, that's their thing. So not even everyone agrees on shelter, but everyone agrees on those three things. Don't kill people, eat food, and drink water, and you're not doing one of those. So I'm not going to take advice from you, because I'm not going to a war zone ever in my life. I'm very American in that way. A lot of people think being American is like being brave and being a free thinker and, fighting against what's wrong and doing what's right. And it's like, no, it's not about that. It's about serving yourself entirely and never thinking of anyone else. That's the whole point of being American, right? Like, that's how these people got here. Like, all these fucking, German immigrants, right? Like, I'm German. They just dragged their families over here to fucking farm wheat in South Dakota. That's not, they were only thinking about themselves. They were like, should I think about what would my kids want? Do my kids want to just farm wheat for the rest of their lives and never meet another child until they're 20 years old, or never meet another person that they're not related to until they're 20 years old? They didn't think of that bullshit. They were like, no, I'm going to go farm wheat, make not even that much money. Let's be honest here. Make not even that much money farming wheat. Drag my kids over there. Give them a pretty not great life in the middle of nowhere. And just not even my wife. But you also don't have to consider your wife's feelings because she's going to be dissatisfied no matter what. So I don't blame him on that one. But like the whole kids thing is like just completely disregarding your kid's future, being like, no, this is your future because this is my life. And so that's what being an American is all about, right? Like if being an American was about fighting what's wrong and standing up for your constitutional rights or whatever, the government would have been destroyed in the 40s, maybe before that, right? Like the government would have been, every single one of them would have been killed and hanged. That's just what would have happened. Because since World War II, the right to freedom has been oppressed, or not the right to freedom, the freedom of speech, sorry, has been oppressed, right? That's first and foremost. That's literally the first one on the list. Once again, the first one on the list, they broke the fucking rule. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there was like a anti-war movement during World War I believe. I think it was during World War I. It might have been during World War II, but there was an anti-war movement. And everyone's like, dude, fucking World War I, we don't need to be involved in this shit. This is a bunch of bullshit between all these, monarchies in Europe. Who cares? We don't need it's the fucking Ottomans versus the Hungarians. Who gives a shit? That doesn't apply to us. And they were just going around saying this, and they were thrown in jail for saying that because everyone was like, shut up, you pussy, dude. Everyone knows Germans are lame as hell. And so the right to freedom of expression has been oppressed since the 1910s, right? And that would be the time when you would think all these fucking, American savages that are moving to like Indian territory and like fighting, Native American tribes all day that are like scalping your fucking children. You think those people would have been the ones to stand up to the government, but no, they didn't, right? And then World War II, the same thing happened there, right? Like during the World Wars, everything that came in and out of the countries was, the troops, the films, the pictures, all that shit that came out of, Europe during World War I and World War II, and Japan as well for World War II. All of that was completely censored. So that's another knock on the peg right there. It's the first one. And then the second one, the right to bear arms. That one, obviously since the beginning, right? Like they just immediately, they're like, nah, we're not doing that one. I know it's number 2. I know it's number 2 on the list. We're not doing that one. And so that one has also been completely oppressed. And it's like whether you agree with it or not, right? Whether you agree with the right to bear arms is a constitutional right that shall not be infringed upon, you can think that's complete and utter bullshit, right? You can think that's the dumbest thing on fucking earth. I'm not telling you you're wrong, but it is in the Constitution. And so if you disagree with it, then you think the Constitution's retarded, basically, is what you're saying. And so, I'm not saying that the Constitution is always right. I'm not saying you got to think that. But if you do disagree with that, then you are anti-constitutionalist. I'm becoming Fox News. I went a few episodes there where I wasn't full Fox News, but I'm right back to full Fox News. If you disagree with me on anything, then you hate the Constitution, freedom, liberty, and if you lived with George Washington in George Washington times, you probably would have killed him. Is what I'm saying. If you think any right to bear arms, any weapon should be banned. If you think if I can't go to Walmart and buy a bazooka, if you think that I can't do that, you should be deported. Is what I'm saying right here. But that is another part of the American way, is just being like, oh, you disagree with me? Well, then you're wrong about everything else as well. But that's more just being a human, right? Like I'm not going to put that all on the Americans or like the, American dream, because that's why everything in humanity has ever happened, right? Because there was a slight disagreement. War is the thing that has ultimately driven all of humanity, or drived. That's how you know. That's how you know I'm smart. Now I'm spitting facts because I said drived. That's the thing though that is like driven, driven or drove. That one of those two is right. Drive definitely isn't right. But that's the thing that's like driven all of like human society and innovation and like these great empires that have come to power, is just like slight disagreements between people. Like Ireland. Ireland had a 30-year fucking war. Civil war, kind of. It was kind of a civil war. It was between like Northern Ireland, which is controlled by the UK, and then like the Republic of Ireland, I think is what it's called. And so they had like a 30-year civil war about English versus Gaelic and about Protestantism versus Catholicism. And fucking however many people died, tens of thousands of people died, most of them innocent, by the way. That war, that's not even a war. It was just a series of civilian massacres that people called the war. It was just like en masse. Like the IRA would just blow up like bars and fucking hotels and all that shit. And the fucking English weren't any better. The English historically are not the best to Ireland. I don't know if you guys know this fact. I don't know if you guys are history buffs or anything like that. But for some reason they're like, dude, you're speaking a made up fucking language, dude. Gaelic, what even is that? That makes no sense. What you're saying to me makes no sense, and it's just someone speaking another language. It's so funny to be like, what you're saying makes no sense, and it's just someone speaking Chinese, and you're like, you're just making that up. What is this? You're just making weird noises with your mouth. Now I have to kill everyone you love because you're just making weird noises with your mouth. But that is the thing that has drived. I'm gonna go with drived. I think that's a lot better. I think that's more of a punchy word. You know what I mean? It's got that hard consonant at the end of it. So that's the thing that has drived all of, human society and human innovation, all the technology. All the technology we've come up as of late. The greatest like power source on earth, right? Like ultimately nuclear power. That was invented basically because people were trying to figure out how to kill as many people as possible with as little effort, with as little work as possible, right? Like that's how nuclear energy came about. They were more worried about the bombs than they were about making nuclear reactions. At first, I don't know what they were doing with radiation at first, because I just had we had like the nuclear chemistry part of my chemistry class recently, and it seems like they were going for bombs above anything else. It seems like as soon as they discovered like these weird like particles and shit, they were like, how can we make this dangerous? But at first they didn't know it was dangerous. Like that's Marie Curie. She was like one of the early, I think in like the 1920s, maybe before that, she was like focused on radiation, right? I think uranium in particular is like the thing she was focused on, and she just completely didn't know that it was like the most dangerous fucking thing on earth. That like it would immediately like give you cancer, if not melt off your skin. I don't think they realized that. And then as soon as they figured that out, they were like, this thing can melt off people's skin, dude. What the fuck? What are we talking about? X-rays. I don't give a fuck about X-rays. Yeah, obviously your arm's broken. It hurts. I don't need a fucking X-ray to prove that. Let's make a bomb out of this. Let's figure out how to melt all these Japanese people's skin off, dude. Let's figure that one out. And, the thing about nuclear bombs is that even if it doesn't hit you directly, it can still like blind you. Like the flash can be so bright that it blinds you. But that doesn't really apply to Japan or really anywhere in Asia because they already have like natural sunglasses on. They're already squinting all the time. So they can't be blinded by the light. Yeah. That's so stupid. Just like that doesn't apply to Japan. They were like, all right, we're gonna drop this on a military target in Japan, which by the way they didn't drop either of the bombs on military targets. They dropped one on like where all the Catholics lived in Japan. I guess they were trying to kill all the Catholics in Japan, and then I don't know about the other, but they didn't drop them on military targets. But let's pretend they did for a second, right? Let's pretend that was the plan. And so they were like, all right, we're gonna drop it on these giant military targets, take the whole thing out, teach them their lesson, and then they'll surrender. And then one guy was like, well, what about the blinding light? And then they were like, dude, they're fucking Chinese. They didn't even know they were Japanese. They're Chinese, dude. Who cares? They can't even see shit anyway. That blinding light is going to have no effect on Sorry. That's so funny, though. Just one guy being like, dude, they can't see it. Have you ever seen one of them try to drive, dude? They're hitting everything on the road. They're playing bumper cars on the road. Who cares? Who cares if they can't see anymore? They didn't see to begin with. But that's probably that probably came up somewhere in there. You know what I mean? Like they were so racist back in the day, dude. Even now people are so fucking like the Kurds versus the Arabs in Iraq, like that whole thing, even though they both are Arabs. Like that disagreement is fucking insane. People are still incredibly racist. Like in America, we had the Civil Rights Act and all that shit, and we like ended Jim Crow or whatever, and we're like, all right. And so now people in America think that the rest of the world really isn't as racist. I'd argue it's gotten significantly more racist. Like back in the day, Europe for a while was like, all right, we're all Europeans. We got to start the European Union. Okay, we're one and the same. Like, oh, you're Belgian and I'm, from Denmark or whatever. But it's like we got the same interest in mind. We follow the same religion. And then I feel like they're right back to that. They're right back to where they were before that, just being like, you're fucking subhuman trash. And all of that, all of the racism in Europe is motivated not by, anything significant, right? It's not like the gypsies or whatever, where it's like the stereotype that like gypsies steal everything and they just fuck over everyone completely, right? It's not driven by that anymore. It's all driven by soccer. That's the thing. That's like truly is the circus, the bread and circus of the masses in Europe. Like everyone talks about like American football like that. Like they're all like, oh, it's the bread and circus it's to distract us from the invasion of the Puerto Ricans or whatever. Like that's what people say about football in America, football in America. But like soccer in Europe is really that thing. Like they don't care about any of the other problems facing their country. Like I'm pretty sure France had like a complete debacle with their election where they were like, nope, this election doesn't count. Let's redo it over again. Like that happened in France and no one there gave a shit because they were like, what is the Paris Saint-Germain? What is that football team doing? Are they going to beat the team from Germany? They just completely, the government was like, yeah, this election didn't count. We're going to do another one so that this guy can stay in power. This guy and his transgender wife can stay in power. I didn't know that, by the way. A lot of people, like that's the thing with Michelle Obama, and they're like, oh, she's transgender or whatever. And there's not really a ton of evidence for that. The one in France, there's an insane amount of evidence for. First of all, she's a pedophile, right? If transgender or not, that person right there, Brigitte Macron, whether Brigitte Macron is really Brigitte Macron or not, is a pedophile. Like that's a proven fact. And so that was my whole thing during it. I was like, I thought the whole transgender thing was just a retarded conspiracy theory. I thought it was just like, who cares at all if she's transgender or not? It doesn't make a difference if she has a dick or not because she used that dick to fuck a 14-year-old boy. She was sucking on a 14-year-old boy when she was like 40 years old. Who fucking cares if she's transgender or not? And then I listened to Candace Owens. And this is the other thing about like the news and all that. It doesn't really matter what you're saying. It doesn't really matter if it's factually true or not. As long as you're saying it in like a charismatic way, then it becomes the truth, basically. 1984 was very right about that. As long as people believe it, then it is true. And I believe it, dude. I believe Candace Owens. I believe the queen, dude. The number one black queen in America. Brigitte Macron is transgender. But I would say more importantly than that, and I don't know why she chose to focus on the trans, maybe just to prove that everything that comes out of her mouth is a fucking lie. Maybe she did it to like prove that fact. But I would be far more interested in the pedophile thing. But in America especially, like this fact has been proven to us that every politician we have is already a pedophile. So we're like, yeah, of course she's a pedophile, dude. All politicians are pedophiles. Everyone knows that. But then the whole transgender thing came out and everyone was like, what? She cut off her dick? What in the goddamn hell is going on with this? Yeah, she fucked a 14-year-old kid. She's fucking the first lady of France. But a dick, she used a dick to fuck that 14-year-old kid instead of a pussy. What in the goddamn hell? What is that kind of bullshit? Because we're just so accepting that every politician is a pedophile. We're just like, yeah, they're all... And that's like the one bipartisan issue in America that like every American agrees on is that like they're all pedophiles, or they kind of like deny it, right? Like that's the other like side of that coin is just people denying it outright, being like, yeah, no, it's made up. That whole thing completely made up. And I don't really blame them for that, because if all these people, right, if all these politicians are, like equally blackmailed together, then why the fuck would they arrest the guy in the first place? And there's the argument that he's kind of like the fall guy. He's just like a patsy for the whole operation, and I can kind of get that argument too. But then why would they expose, the flight logs and all that shit? Which, in fairness, they haven't. They haven't at all. They haven't exposed one single name on the flight list. The only one they got was like Chris Angel. I think it was Chris. It was like David Blaine or like Chris Angel or one of like those fake magicians. Not even magicians, like David Blaine. If you've ever seen a David Blaine trick before, he's not a magician. He's just like stabbing himself in the eye, being like, isn't that crazy how I did that? How I stabbed myself in the eye like that? That's fucking insane. He's not like making cars disappear or whatever, or like making himself float. He's like stabbing himself in the thigh and being like, it's crazy. It's crazy what the human body can do. He's not a magician. He just like tortures himself. He probably gets off on it a little bit. Like anyone that's ever seen David Blaine or like heard him talk, but really seen him. Like that guy is just like the most soulless fucking eyes I've ever seen. He's probably getting off on that a little bit, dude. He probably was like a magician at first, right? Like a regular, like doing card tricks and being like, is this your card? And like getting pussy off that, right? And he fucked so many bitches that the only way he can get off anymore is by torturing himself on the fucking Jimmy Fallon show or whatever. You know what I mean? Swallowing a live frog on the Jimmy Fallon show and just watching like the repulsed faces in the crowd, watching the people in the crowd be like, and he's just like, you know, he probably has like a special type of like metal underwear that he wears so it doesn't show his like dick getting hard when he swallows the frog. But not even swallowing the frog, seeing the reaction from the crowd of being like, that's fucking disgusting. Like that's probably what gets him off at that point. And that's why I don't think he went to Epstein's Island. I don't think it was him on the list. I think it was Chris Angel, and I can 100% see that. Because Chris Angel dresses like every small-town pedophile ever. Like, that guy, he wears, like, doesn't he wear, like, snapbacks and, like, those shirts with, like, those gothic, I guess is the best way to describe it, like, those designs on it? Isn't he a guy that wears that? Like, every 23-year-old that's dating a 16-year-old wears that exact same fit. So I can fully believe if he... I have no argument against that. Just like based on the clothes he wears, I agree that he's a pedophile. I have no argument against that. But speaking of pedophiles, we got our first little article of the day. Supreme Court allows Trump to implement transgender military ban. Because as we know, and Brigitte Macron really has proven this. Maybe that's why they're trying to deny the whole transgender thing. Because it's like, yeah, she's a pedophile, but she's not a transgender pedophile. But I don't know. Maybe they're coming up with that. But the blanket ban, expanding on a similar policy Trump proposed in his first term, has been blocked nationwide by lower courts. And so I guess it went all the way to the Supreme Court because they couldn't figure it out. And this goes back to the whole, if you can't handle this, then you can't handle that. Like, if you can't handle being in the wrong body, then you shouldn't be in the military, right? Because if you're in the military, then you're going to get shot. And I don't know about gender dysphoria. I don't know if it's real or not. But if it really is just like a general like uncomfortableness with life and like feeling the wrong way about your body, then you shouldn't be in the military. Because being in the military, especially as like a combat soldier, there's almost 100% guarantee that you're gonna be in a body that you don't like. You're gonna be in a body with bullet holes in it, or that doesn't have fucking legs or arms or hands or whatever, or your nose gets fucking blown off, or your skin melts off your fucking face, right? Like that's fairly likely to happen if you're a combat service member. And so if you can't handle having a dick when you feel like you shouldn't have a dick, or having tits when you feel like you shouldn't have tits, then you really can't handle being in the military. So I'm kind of agreeing on Trump on that, but I also think I know a few people in the military, and I can tell you for a fact that they should not be in there. So it's kind of a thing of like, yeah, maybe transgender people shouldn't be in the military because they're kind of, unstable or whatever the argument is. I don't know. We'll get to that in a second. It's somewhere in there. But also, the vast majority of other people in the military shouldn't be in it either because they're even more mentally unstable. You know what I mean? Like everyone I know in the military is like, either has incredible anger issues, like zero control over their emotions or whatever, or is just generally stupid. Like generally, like you should be a janitor. Like if you're a fucking janitor for the Coast Guard, okay, yeah, sure, then you're in the military. But like every other, you should not be able to fill another position other than that, right? So it's like, yeah, transgender people, in my opinion, should be allowed to be in the military, but not because they're not mentally unstable, but because everyone else in the military is more mentally unstable than them. Like that's my argument for it. And Trump, if you're listening, and I know that you are, you got to agree with me there. But another point about that is like, I looked it up like before I did this, right? I read this article and then I was like, how many transgender people are even in the military? And it's like 4,000. There's 4,000 of them. And this is just, this fucking microcosm of American politics right here, just being like, our military shouldn't have transgender people in it. It's like, well, that's not even the biggest issue plaguing our military or like what our military does, because I don't think our military should be invading and giving aid to every country on earth, right? Like, I don't think the American military should be doing that either. I think that's a far bigger issue than 4,000 potentially unstable people being in the military in the first place. And another thing is that it's only 4,000 people, and yet it's the biggest fucking story in the country. It's literally the first thing that popped up when I looked up news. Like, that's how I find what I'm looking for. I just look up news, and that was like one of the first things that popped up was 4,000 people in the military. It's just, it's this complete non-issue. It's really not an issue at all. Because here's the other thing about being transgender, is you're probably going to kill yourself anyway. Like, isn't the suicide rate like 50%? And then you add being in the military on top of that, the suicide rate has to be like 95% or some fucking absurd number like that, right? And so they're all going to kill themselves anyway. So they're going to eventually like wipe themselves out, basically. So who cares whether they're in the military or not? It's a very American issue. The Supreme Court on Tuesday allowed President Donald Trump to implement his ban on transgender people serving in the military. The justices granted an emergency request. First of all, how is this an emergency? In what way, shape, or form is 4,000, let's just say full on, that like transgenderism is completely wrong and that these people are completely insane? How is 4,000 people who are insane being in the military an emergency in any way, shape, or form? I'd say we have... there's like poison rivers. There's like rivers that feed tens of thousands, millions of people in America, right? Like they get all their water from there that have been completely poisoned, right? Like the people that drink from that water source have like a 95% rate of cancer or some bullshit like that. This is just like an example, but like they're just I guess like a hypothetical, but it's not a hypothetical. It's 100% true and it's happening all over the country. That's not an emergency, but 4,000 people... 4,000 people in the military is. God damn, I love this country, dude, because you can just completely ignore the real problems. Like that's the great thing about being an American, is you can completely ignore the fact that we're quickly becoming an oligarchy, and for the past 100 years or however long it's been, we've been a democracy. It's great, right? Like you can completely ignore the fact that kids are going hungry and they're not getting the education they need, and they're ending up on the streets and they're getting addicted to drugs and they're, killing people. You can completely ignore that and instead choose to focus on 4,000 people in a military that has, over the past 50 years, not been in a single justified war, but has somehow been in 100 wars. Like that's the great thing about being an American, is you can be like, if kids are killing, 14-year-olds are killing each other at the highest rate in America. Who cares about that, dude? They're fucking poor, dude. They're fucking black and they're poor. Who gives a fuck? And instead, you can focus on someone in the military, someone who's going to go and get PTSD for a country that doesn't give a shit about us, right? Like, and you could be like, no, that person shouldn't be allowed to go over and get PTSD and fight in a non-justified war. No, dude, that's not fucking happening. But what about, I wonder if there is a loophole. I wonder if there is a loophole where you can just be like, yeah, I'm just a dude that like wants to have tits and like have long hair and shit like that. Like, I feel like this is like, you're leaving the gate wide open for loopholes, dude. This is a big old loophole we got going on right here. This loophole is fucking looser than a transgender ass. This thing is looser than a drag queen's asshole. That's the biggest loophole I've ever had in my entire life, dude. Like one Jew, that's all they need. It's all the military transgenders need. It's like one Jew from Brooklyn to come in and be like, actually, Your Honor, my client, he just really likes having tits and long hair, okay? So he's not technically transgender. He just has long hair and tits. It's over. The ban is done and over with. We figured out the loophole. Trump, god damn it, dude. I figured it out ahead of time. And this thing probably, the other thing about this, and the other thing about everyone freaking out about it being like, yeah, that's goddamn right. Goddamn right, no transgenders in my goddamn military. The people being like that, the people who would never serve in the military in the first place, the people that don't have, the selflessness required to do that, being like, no transgenders in my goddamn military, or the people being like, can you believe this? This is another step back. We're going back to the dark ages. I'm pretty sure slavery is going to come back too. The thing about those two groups of people freaking out about this is that it's not going to happen. It's just straight up not going to happen. The amount of bureaucracy we have in this country, it's just not going to go into effect, right? Like, in order to fire someone from the military might be one of the easier places to fire someone, right? But it's still got to be pretty fucking hard, because a lot of these people probably aren't like low-level combat vets. They're probably in like the PR division of the fucking Coast Guard or some bullshit like that, right? Like, they're not they're not like fucking Private Pile or whatever, where you can just like slap him in the face and be like, "You're not fit to serve in my goddamn unit. Get out of here. Go on, get." You know what I mean? There's so much bureaucracy in the military at this point. And if you want to know more about that, watch the show fucking, what's it called? Generation Kill. Go and watch that show if you want to understand why none of these people are going to get fired, or none of these people are going to get kicked out of the military. It's everything the military does now is so bogged down in bureaucracy and like, oh, I need to get approval from this guy and he needs to get approval from this guy. Like, even in war, even in an active combat zone, you still need to get like 50 different people's approvals to fucking shoot a weapon. In a combat zone, you need to get a fucking, HR needs to approve that your fucking rifle can be shot at a dude wearing a suicide vest. Like, none of these people are gonna face anything, right? Like, being transgender in the military in the first place is probably worse than being fired. So I don't think, even if they are fired, which they won't be. But the court's brief order noted that the 3 liberal justices dissented. That's crazy that there's only 3 libs in there. Trump really got one over on him. God damn, dude. I didn't realize there was only 3 of those motherfuckers in there. The decision is a loss for the 7 individual transgender service members led by plaintiff Emily Schilling, a Navy commander who sued to block it. And this is, when I was reading that, I thought that meant that there was only 7 of them in there, and I was like, of course, dude, this is America right here. We're just trying to fuck over 7 people. Who cares at all? Even if it's 4,000, who cares? Today's Supreme Court ruling is a devastating blow, here we go, to the transgender service members who have demonstrated their capabilities and commitment to our nation's defense. Lamba Legal and Human Rights Campaign Foundation, 2 groups representing the plaintiffs, said in a joint statement. It really took 2 different groups to figure that one out, to be like, this is bad for transgender people. That's all they said. That's the most, and it's not even pointed. It's the longest sentence I've ever read in my entire fucking life, and it took 2 groups of people to come up with that. And that's just another reason why you lost. You couldn't be like, yeah, Trump's a fucking moron. Trump's a moron. These people are good at their jobs. None of them, if they were bad at their jobs, right? Like, if you're bad at your job in the military, you're going to get demoted or not promoted, and you're just going to stay in one stagnant place where you can't hurt anyone. Like, they could have said that, but instead they were like, the transgender community as a whole is really going to suffer from this. And it's like, this is probably a tiny minority even within the transgender community. So it's so stupid. Just everything about it's the most retarded thing. The policy has nothing to do with military readiness and everything to do with prejudice, the groups added. I do agree with them on that, right? Because it's not, because if the military really cared about military fucking, readiness, what was the term they used? Yeah, military readiness, then half the people in there would be gone. Right? Like, it's completely about them being transgender. And I'm not saying that it's right or it's wrong that these people are transgender. Who cares? If someone wants to cut off their dick, who fucking cares? There's people who are literally rotting in the street from shooting fentanyl and xylazine, and you're like, you better not cut off your dick. Every day, if you live in a city, you drive past people who are in the most unfortunate circumstances on earth and who are making the worst decisions possible in regards to their body. But no, you choose to focus on this one. But it is fun. It is way more fun to be like, no, you better not cut off your dick and get dick or titty implants. Better not do that, not in my goddamn country. Because it's like, at least the person doing that is cognizant, right? Like, if you like going out and screaming at someone who's like nodding off on fentanyl, being like, what are you doing? This is some bullshit. You don't have the right to do this with your body. What in the good goddamn hell are you doing? You fucking moron. Like, that person, you're just screaming at a wall at that point. But getting in an argument with a transgender person about the validity of them being transgender, like, that's way more fun. That's way more exciting. Because if you believe what Trump believes, then they're all mentally unstable. And so arguing with a mentally unstable person, it's a really fun time. It's just a nice screaming match. It's a way you can get out all the fucking anger and negativity you have in you. But like doing that to like someone who's like tweaking on meth, they're just going to eat your face off. So I do understand it in that way. Just it's so much more fun and exciting than focusing on like an actual issue. And that's true of most things in life. Most things in life are like that. Where it's just like it's more fun to focus on the dumb bullshit than it is on like the serious thing that like actually matters. Right? And I'm not saying none of the like the transgender issues matter, like the thing about like kids being transgender or transgenders in sports, but like this doesn't matter. It's not one of those things where it's like all of these people are going to be negatively affected by this, right? It's not like if a kid becomes transgender, it's like, oh, well, that's like an irreversible decision that someone made as a child. Like, that's not a good thing, right? Like, I think most people can agree on that. Most rational people, besides, I don't know, high level Democrats, like, whoever decided Kamala Harris obviously doesn't agree on that issue, but most people do. And the other thing, transgender people being in sports, like there's an obvious, deficit or advantage either way, whichever way you look at it. There's an obvious, gap in athleticism there, whether it's a, transgender man competing against men or transgender women competing against women, right? Like either way you look at it, there's a massive discrepancy in athletic ability there. So it's like, obviously you can look at that and be like, all right, well, it's fine if you want to be transgender, but you can't do that because there's that gap there. And then the kid thing is obviously true, but like as a whole, it's kind of a non-issue, right? Like adults doing it, to me, it's a non-issue. It's not a big enough of an issue to put any effort into it. Same thing with the whole gay thing, like people being like, gay marriage is happening. How about we focus on the fact that 50% of people who get married in this country get a divorce? How about we focus on the fact that like divorce, the effect that has on children is insane? How about we try to focus on that and try to find a solution within that instead of being like, yeah, these two gay guys are gonna get married and go on vacation to Cancun. God damn it, what in the hell's going on here? It's like that's not even in the top 10 issues when it comes to marriage in this country. It's just not. The divorce rate is by far number one, and the effect that divorce has on children is right up there with it. It's insane the things people choose to focus on within an actual issue, right? Like obviously all these things, the military has its own issues, marriage, the state of marriage in America has its own issues, all these things, sports, all of those things within them contain an issue, but they choose to focus on like the dumbest, most non-issue part of it, like the smallest issue within that thing, right? Like football. I don't this isn't really an example, but I watched the movie Concussion recently, and Concussion is about the guy who discovered CTE, and he discovered CTE, and for well over a decade, the NFL completely ignored it, and they called him retarded. And this guy's example, his evidence that CTE happens all the time within NFL players was Mike Webster. Like that was the first person that he looked at, and that's the person that he discovered CTE in. And I'm a Steelers fan, so Iron Mike, I fucking love Mike Webster. But Mike Webster, near the end of his life, he was living in a car. This guy played 20 years in the NFL, I want to say. 20 years in the NFL. During it wasn't like he was playing in like the 50s or 60s when he was making like $10,000 a year or even less than that. He was playing in a time where he was set up for life and he didn't ever have to work again. And he played in the NFL during an era where he made a bunch of money. But near the end of his life, he was living in a car, right? He was living in a truck. He was huffing ammonia so he didn't fall asleep, because if he thought if he fell asleep, he would die. He was like tasing his legs constantly because he thought if he fell asleep, he would die. And so this guy was up for like 3 days at a fucking time. He was running around getting in fights with people constantly. His teeth were falling out of his head, and he was super gluing them back in. And the NFL was like, nah, I know you noticed this thing. Sorry. Let me get a sip of water. But the NFL was like, nah, it's not happening. Nope, it's just straight up. And then he was like, all right, well, maybe one person, like, let's find some other examples. And they did. They found like 4. And I guess that's like the scientific burden of proof, is finding a disease within 4 people and finding the cause of that thing is like enough to prove that this cause causes this disease, if that makes sense, right? Like proving that playing in the NFL, no matter what, is going to give you CTE. And he did that, and they just completely ignored it, right? And they were like, fuck off, who cares? And the only the only reason that the NFL implemented any of the CTE policies, any of the concussion policies it has now, wasn't because of any of the research that guy actually did. Like, they didn't consider as scientific papers. They hired a bunch of fake neuroscientists to tell him to fuck off and told him he was retarded. The thing that convinced the NFL to implement these policies to prevent CTE or to mitigate it or whatever was the movie. It was the movie Concussion that convinced them to do that. And that's just America in a nutshell. You know, that relates to this whole transgender thing. Like, everyone, if a transgender guy came out and he was like, if Buck Angel started like a tactical kettlebell company and went on Joe Rogan and started promoting it, no one would care about transgender people being in the military. That's how those two things are related, and that's a complete false comparison that I came up with, but who cares? You guys know what I mean. It's all about optics in this country. It doesn't really matter what you're arguing about. It doesn't matter about the substance behind the argument. It's about the optics of the argument, right? The CTE thing. It doesn't matter. Like, that literally, this was happening constantly, and it's still happening within NFL players. It's not about that. It's about Will Smith doing a Nigerian accent for 2 hours. That's what convinced the NFL to implement these policies that probably saved numerous people's lives. It was a movie that honestly wasn't even that good. Will Smith's Nigerian accent wasn't that fucking good. And the other chick that Will Smith's character in that movie gets married to, she's from Kenya or Ethiopia, I want to say, which is on the other side of Africa from Nigeria, and they have the exact same accent. And I think they were both colonized by Britain at some point. Like, they were both colonized by the UK, but still, they talk the exact same way. It's like getting someone from the Bronx and getting someone from like North Carolina and like having them have the exact same accent, being like they're both from America, right? But even more than that, like, there's an even bigger discrepancy in the difference between someone from Nigeria and someone from Kenya, and they had the exact same accent. It was a very funny movie. And another funny part of the movie is, as a Steelers fan, right? Like, so he gets Mike Webster's body, and he's from Nigeria, so he's like, who the fuck is Mike Webster? I don't know who he is. And he works at like the coroner's office in Pittsburgh. Like, that's where he works. And all these people are like, stop fucking with Mike Webster's body. That's Iron Mike, all right? Put that scalpel down and stop fucking with Mike. That was just a hilarious part of the movie. It's just all these fucking retarded Pittsburghians being like, or whatever they're called, Pittsburghers, I don't know, just being like, put that scalpel down. Stop. Go to Permani's and get a fucking fry sandwich and stop trying to discover a disease that's causing endless cases of domestic violence and suicide and schizophrenia. But that is what it caused. Like, I guess all these people, like, at least that's the way the movie makes it look. I don't know if it's true or not, but like, all these people like became schizophrenic. Like, they were all hearing voices in their head. Like, there's 2 examples in the movie of people that played on the Pittsburgh Steelers like hearing voices inside their head. And even more than that, like, there was this other guy who played for the Eagles. He was like a safety for the Eagles, and this is a very funny part of the movie. So the Nigerian doctor is going to the NFL with all this evidence being like, CTE is real and it causes all these problems and we need to do something to stop that. And there's this guy who works for the NFL now. He's like, I don't know, a commissioner. I don't think he's a commissioner. He's like some bullshit bureaucrat within the NFL. And the Nigerian doctor goes to like this assembly of like NFL executives or whatever, and he gives his evidence, or he doesn't give the evidence. Alec Baldwin gives the evidence for some reason. I don't fucking remember why. But the guy walks out, right? Like, the former player who's now an executive within NFL walks out, and he goes up to Nigerian Will Smith, and he's like, you fucking idiot. You don't know anything about this goddamn game of football. Get the fuck out of my face. And then at the end of the movie, or maybe not the exact end, but near the end of it, that exact same guy is like talking with someone on the phone. He's like, I keep hearing voices in my head. I can't put thoughts together. I can't remember words. And then he like shoots himself in the chest. And I just thought that was so funny. Just going up to Nigerian Will Smith and being like, that's bullshit. That guy just heard voices because he was crazy. You're out of your goddamn mind, Nigerian Will Smith. And then 15 minutes later, probably in movie time, he's like putting a gun to his chest, being like, donate my brain to science. I can't stop hearing voices. And he kills himself. I don't know. I thought that part of the movie was funny. And now we have our next article right here. 3 dead, 7 missing after boat capsizes near San Diego. 3 people are dead and at least 7 more are missing after a small boat overturned off the coast near San Diego, California, officials said. At least 16 people, including 2 children on board the Panga-style fishing boat, the U.S. Coast Guard said. Initially, as many as 9 people were reported missing, but 2 were later found and detained. And so this was a boat, I guess, full of illegal immigrants coming from Mexico or something like that. I assume, even if they weren't from Mexico, they were going from Mexico to like San Diego or Los Angeles or wherever the fuck they were trying to get to. They were trying to go to the Holy Land. They were trying to watch a Lakers game before LeBron retired. That's where they were on that boat. But they were going around, and I guess their boat capsized, and a few people went missing, and a few people died. And if you sail over to America, right, you get to be an American, because that's how our forefathers got here, right? Like, that's how the people who like really built this country, like the people who went out west and like killed all the Native Americans and started farms in fucking, Nebraska or whatever, like that's how they got here. They came over here on shitty wooden sailing ships. So if you do the same thing, I think you should be given automatic citizenship, right? Because a lot of the people, like the argument against a lot of these illegal immigrants and, just like the mass immigration as a whole, the reason people now are like, we can't be doing that is because the country's been built, if that makes sense, right? Like the people who came over from like the 1700s up until like the early 1800s or late 1800s, early 1900s, like the people who came here during that period, like the massive waves of people from Germany and England and, China and wherever the fuck else, all those people that came here, those are the people that like built the infrastructure that made the country it is today, if that makes sense. And so the argument for people coming now is they're like, well, there's not a lot of work left to do because the country's kind of already been built up, right? So that's why we can't have all these immigrants coming here, because there's not going to be enough jobs. There's not a lot of work left to do. Like, it's heavily urbanized. We have all like the agricultural shit established. So we can't have all these people coming here because there's just not that much left to do. It's not like the 1700s anymore, where it's like 1 million people were living on the continent or living in the country, and there was just like boundless farmland and boundless, places to go and like build cities and stuff. It's just not that way anymore. So that's the argument for like these people coming here. But, if you come over on a boat, right? Like you're coming over on the USS Constitution or whatever, you're fucking raising up the mainsail being like, arr, these Mexican pirates coming over here, these Mexican POCs sailing over on their little pirate ship. Like, I don't know. I think we should let these guys in because those guys are putting in the same work that like the people who really built this country did. So I feel like if you're doing that, I don't know. For me, you get a free pass. Like you automatically get in. You automatically get citizenship because you're like embodying the spirit of the people who built this country, which a lot of Americans don't do to begin with. But if you're born here, there's really nowhere to deport you to. So, but I think these guys, we should let them right the fuck in. If you're coming over on like the border or whatever, like you cross like a mile of desert or whatever, and you're like, oh, my journey was so hard. It's like you took fucking Ubers all the way up to the border and then walked over a mile of desert. Shut the fuck up. But these guys, these guys are going full Pirates of the Caribbean. They're Christopher Columbusing out. Those guys get a free pass from me. I think they should be let in. And that was the whole point of the article. Like, that's the only reason I decided to talk about this one, because I was like, these guys should definitely be let in. Like, these guys sailed over here on like a fucking, on like a Home Depot door from Mexico. Those guys fucking rode the waves over here doing fucking, getting pitted in a half pipe or whatever. I don't know surfing terms, but they fucking came over here on a fucking piece of plywood. I think we should let these guys in. But they were not tourists. Someone, Mr. Sappy, I don't know, I guess that's the Border Patrol agent right there. They were not tourists. They are believed to be migrants. Yeah, as long as they weren't like smuggling cocaine or whatever, and even if they were smuggling cocaine, I think they should be let in. I think these guys get like a free, I don't know. It's like a lot of the people in this country never did that much work to get here. They were just kind of born here and just kind of float through this now established country. I don't know. I think these guys... Yeah, I think they should be given automatic citizenship. I think, how many people were on board the boat? I think it said 16. 16 people? We can deport fucking 16, I don't know, people from fucking Portland or people who live in trailer parks in West Virginia. Get those fucking honkies out of here. Send them to Belize or whatever. Let these guys in. These guys put in the work. I think they should be let in. That's my personal opinion on it. And another thing about the Border Patrol is... I've been getting a lot of ads on YouTube to like join the Border Patrol, and there's like 90% of the ad is either guys putting on equipment or a guy like hitting a punching bag. Like, that's all it is. That's the ad, is being like, you get to beat the shit out of Mexicans. You get to wear cool ass gear and beat the shit out of Mexicans. And the gear's probably uncomfortable as hell, but I don't know. And then this other piece of news I got. It's about someone arriving in a place illegally. That's what this is. Man crashes vehicle through gates of Jennifer Aniston's LA home, police sources. A man crashed his vehicle through the gates of actress Jennifer Aniston's Los Angeles home on Monday, police sources confirmed. This might have been a Border Patrol agent just checking out to see if Jennifer Aniston had any illegal immigrants in her basement. I think that's what this might have been. The Friends star was at home at the time. Yeah, she was at home taking care of those goddamn illegal Mexicans she has in her fucking basement. That's what she was doing there. All right, that's why she was at home. She was giving them fucking fava beans and I don't know, whatever the fuck else Mexicans eat. She was feeding them tortillas and shit. And this guy said, "Not in my country. I'm not having none of this." Private security at the Bel Air home detained the driver, and he is currently in LAPD custody, sources close to the investigation said. So you might be thinking like this is some kind of crazy stalker or something still going after Jennifer Aniston. And I'm looking at a picture right now, and I wouldn't blame him if that was the case. I wouldn't blame him if he was just like, I need some of that Jennifer Aniston pussy, dude. I need that. Come on now. I know I don't blame him for that, but he's not. He just kind of showed up and balled out, which has handled cases involving it is going to take. There's like no evidence that this guy was a stalker or anything. It might have just been, and this is Bel Air too, so she's surrounded by rich people. This might have just been a guy coming back from a night of cocaine and fucking his assistant, and he was just like, "Goddamn Jennifer Aniston, I hate that bitch," and he just drove through a fucking gate. I really wish we had like video footage of that, because every video like that is the funniest fucking thing you've ever seen in your entire life. Like, my favorites are like the ones of people driving cars into like stores and stuff. There's so many videos of that. There's so many videos of dudes just like driving their fucking car into like the place where the shopping carts are in the front part of Target, and it's so funny because they're never like going like 30 miles an hour or whatever. They're always going like 90. They're always just pedal to the fucking metal in the shittiest car you've ever seen, straight into the fucking store. And the cars always go flying. They always like hit some shit and go like 20 feet in the air. They're the funniest videos on earth. They're the best. Just dudes pissed off as hell at nothing, being like, I'm gonna fucking see how fast this shitbox can go. Drive it straight into Walmart, and it's always like a Walmart or some shitty gym or something. It's so funny, and there's no one. The other thing is that like, I don't know. I don't know when these guys are doing, because every like example I've seen of it, there's not like a ton of people in the store, right? It's not like a busy Sunday. I guess because it's hard, right? Like on a busy Sunday or Saturday or whatever, there's gonna be cars blocking your pathway to getting in there to get into the fucking electronics section or wherever you're trying to go in your 2004 Impala. But those guys, it's always an empty store, and they're always going like the fastest you can go. And I guess it's like, if you're going to do it, you might as well go pedal to the metal. So those guys are having a fun old time. And then our final article of the day. This is going to be a short one because I don't have much to say about this. But U.S. college student suspended over anti-Semitic sign at sports bar. Yeah, they're not suspending people for like raping girls at frat parties. They're like, you better not be saying something about the Jews. Police are investigating a 3-word sign. 3 words with an expletive about Jews was held at the pub on Saturday. So it was at the Barstool bar on at the Temple campus or whatever. So Dave Portnoy, the owner of Barstool Sanson Street Bar, said 2 employees have been fired. 2 others have agreed to go to Auschwitz, the former Nazi Germany death camp. By the way, Auschwitz wasn't a death camp. I don't know. The people writing this clearly didn't know that. It wasn't a death camp. It was a concentration camp. A lot of people, allegedly, did die there, but it wasn't a death camp. It wasn't like Dachau or whatever. Like Dachau, you pull up to Dachau, you're getting fucking killed immediately. Allegedly. I just always have to put in allegedly. Because you can be anti-Semitic now. Like, that's the fun thing, is you could just completely do it, especially at like a liberal arts college, and no one's going to stop you. But yeah, Auschwitz wasn't a death camp. It was just like the most famous one because that's where I think Anne Frank went. I'll look that up real quick. I think it's where Anne Frank went. And but yeah, it's just like the most famous one. It's not a death camp. Like that, it was just like a concentration/work camp. Like Dachau was the one where like lots of people actually died. Concentration camp. Let's see where. Bergen-Belsen. Okay. She was deported from Auschwitz-Birkenau later that year, And then she went to Bergen-Belsen. Yeah, so that's why it's like the most famous one, because that's where Anne Frank went. It wasn't actually a death camp. It wasn't like the one where like the most people died or whatever. It was just like a regular old concentration camp where Anne Frank went. And Anne Frank she wasn't even like gassed to death. She wasn't even like she was a part of the genocide for sure, but she wasn't like systematically killed like that, if that makes sense. She like died of starvation or whatever, and her dad somehow survived. I don't know. That guy, Otto Frank. Let's investigate that guy, because how the fuck does your daughter die and then you come out of the camps fat and happy as a fucking clam, ready to sell her diary about her playing with her clam? So Dave Portnoy, he was just, I don't know, he said some bullshit. He was like, can you believe this? I think the sign said like death to Jews or something. Yeah. But yeah, he basically came out and he was like, can you believe this? This is so evil. Oh my God. Oh. And it's like your whole brand, the whole reason your company exists is because of racist frat guys. So you can't complain about the fact that racist frat guys are going to be racist towards your group of people now. Like these people, the people that support Barstool, the vast, vast majority of them are racist frat guys who are addicted to gambling and probably have at least sexually assaulted a woman before. And you're coming out being like, can you believe it? Can you believe he said death to Jews? This is unbelievable. Oh my God. And it's like, you're getting rid of your base, dude. Like this is just a not good business decision. And this just proves like the stereotype about Jews being good at business isn't true, because Dave Portnoy is alienating his target audience, the most racist people on earth, and he's choosing to be like, oh, you can't be racist. Racism is evil. It's like, dude, these guys are like the actual last racists left. They love being racist too. They have so much fun being racist. Obviously, this guy was having fun. He went to a fucking bar and he's like, death to Jews. But that is, like, this guy, he deserves to be in trouble, not because he said something anti-Semitic or racist or bigoted or whatever. He deserves to be in trouble because that's just like an annoying performative like bullshit thing to do. It's just like, look at me, I hate Jews. Oh, don't I hate Jews? It's like, join the fucking KKK or something. Why are you going to a bar and while everyone else is trying to drink and fucking, I don't know, get whatever underage pussy they can, you're coming in here being like, oh, Jews are bad, I don't like Jews. It's like, shut up, you gay fucking nerd. If Dave Portnoy came out and he said that, I think there would be zero controversy. Everyone would be like, yeah, that guy's a gay fucking nerd. Like, what? Why are you going to a bar with a protest sign? This isn't political. This is all about slipping Molly into fucking 16-year-olds' drinks. Like, get the fuck out of here. But that is retarded of Dave Portnoy. His trip to Poland has been revoked, whatever ramifications. Okay. That the customer did a 180 and refused to admit any wrongdoing. Yeah, I'd be like, shut the fuck. You're not my boss, dude. I can say whatever the fuck I want. I don't know. People in this country have like this weird thing of being like, no, you can't say that. No, stop doing that. It's like, you're not my fucking boss. You're not my dad. Shut the fuck up. Like, yeah, that guy was 100% right to be like that. Like, Dave Portnoy came at him with like some dumb nerd shit. Like, that's the problem here, is that Dave Portnoy acted like as much of a nerd as this guy did, and then this guy was like, shut the fuck up, nerd. No, I'm not going to Poland to go to a death camp. That sounds like the worst time ever. I'm going to go to another fucking bar because no one cares that I did that. Like, that's what that guy did. He's like, oh, I don't get to go to the Barstool bar again? There's no other bars in Philly. I guess I have to go to Auschwitz. Like, no, that guy was like, shut the fuck up, you dumb nerd. And that's all that Dave Portnoy is. He's just like a dumb nerd. He's kind of like the Elon Musk of sports betting. Like, I feel like he really wants to be like liked and stuff like that, and it's just like he's just like not a likable guy. You know what I mean? It's, you know, and I'm not like, I listen to Barstool Sports. I like watch some of their fucking shows and stuff like that. Really, only the Wonton Don is really the only guy I watch. But like, still, I every once in a while I'll see what's going on over there. But it's like Dave Portnoy just isn't the most likable guy on earth, and I feel like he knows that. So I don't know, Dave Portnoy, if you're listening, and I know that you are. You shouldn't have come out with the nerd shit. You should have been like, why? You should have called him a nerd to start with and then done the whole, you know, anti-Semitism thing. You should have been like, why are you at a bar protesting Jews? Like, that's just gay and nerdy. And then you come at him with the Auschwitz shit. So, yeah. And I guess that ruins my chances of getting a job at Barstool Sports, dude. Now I'll never be able to have a podcast where I just shove sports betting down people's throats. Now I'll never have a job where I could completely lie about the way statistics works. God damn it, dude. It's over for me. My life is over. But yeah, that's all I've got for this episode. Stop being nerds, guys. What are we doing being nerds about fucking transgenders and this? What are we doing here? But hope you have a good day, good week, good year. Hope finals. I know I got a boy that's got finals next week, so I hope finals goes well for him. Everyone at my school, I hope finals goes awfully for them. They should all be killed en masse. They should take a trip to Auschwitz, and they should get the Auschwitz experience. Is what I'm saying. So yeah, Dave Portnoy, stop being a nerd. Hope you have a good day, good week, good year, good life. And yeah, I'll see you guys on Thursday. I'm probably going to record a full episode. I'm probably going to have to record 2 episodes on Thursday. But yeah, I'll see you guys then. All right, peace.